What's up everybody and welcome to a new video. And in this video we're gonna go over my notes for the extensions activity. So let's start with the first one, which is about the purpose of extensions. So what are they actually for? Namely, VS Code by design is a small download and only includes the minimum number of components that you would need for most development workflows. So for example, that includes some basic functionality like an editor, file management, window management, or preference settings. And it also has built-in support for JavaScript, TypeScript, Node.js, HTML, and CSS. So then what extensions allow you to do is to easily add additional functionality in order to accommodate your specific workflow. So for example, there are extensions for different programming languages like Python, Java, and so on. Here, however, I have to mention one side note, namely, usually it's not enough to just install the extension of a specific language. You have to install the language itself. So for example, it's not enough to install this Python extension here. You actually have to also install Python, for example, via python.org or via Anaconda. And the same is also true for Julia. Okay, so that's the side note. And then you can also install extensions for debugging, linting, formatting, version control, code completion, refactoring, code navigation, spell checking, and even virtual paths. So if I follow this link here, then you can see that there's actually an extension to include virtual paths into VS Code. So you can really do anything with extensions. So now let's scroll up again. And those are basically already all the notes that I want to mention with regards to the purpose of extensions. Okay, so then the next note is about searching extensions. Therefore, you can use this input field here and simply type in what you're looking for. So for example, if you type in C++, then you get these results here. And for each result, you get the following information, namely the name of the extension, then a short description, the publisher, the number of downloads, and a rating here between 1 and 5 stars. And then you also have here the install button. And if you click on a search result, then that will open the details page, i.e. the README. And here on the right-hand side of the details page, you can see what the identifier is, the unique identifier of the extension, and also what version it is. And then here you have these additional subpages. So the first one is about the features. So what features the extensions adds to VS Code. So for example, what commands or what settings. Then here you have a changelog, and then here a dependencies page. So it lists the dependencies if there are any. And just a side note, if you click here the name of the extension, then that will open the marketplace page of that extension. Okay, so those are the main notes that I want to mention with regards to searching extensions. But here again, I also have some side notes, and the first one is about extension packs. So what the extension packs do is they bundle different extensions together so that you can easily install them at once. So for example, here we have a C++ extension pack, and this bundles together 3 extensions. So if I click on that, then here you can see this is the first extension that's going to be installed, the second one, and the third one. So those are extension packs. So then the next side note is about these search options here. So the first one is to simply clear the search results. And then here you have a button for applying different filters. So for example, if I use this featured filter, then you get a list of currently featured extensions. Then some other filters are most popular, or here by category, you can also filter, for example, by data science. So if you're interested in data science, then you can see relevant extensions for that. And then some other filters here are installed, enabled, and disabled. However, then one thing that I want to highlight here is this recommended filter. Namely, what you can do is you can create workspace recommendations. So you can create a list of extensions that you would recommend for your workspace. In this way, then you can ensure that everyone who wants to use that workspace has the same setup. And the way that you create this list is via the command palette, and here simply search for this configure recommended extensions command. So if you select that, then this creates this extensions.json file, and here you can create your list of recommendations. So for example, if I invoke here IntelliSense, and then here let's select the Python extension, then this will be here listed under workspace recommendations. And if we add another one, so for example Jupyter, then this will also get listed here in this view. And by the way, this extensions.json file is stored in this .vs Code folder. So those are some of the filters that you can apply, but what you also can do is here you have different sort by methods. So for example, if I search for C++ again, and then let's sort by install count. So this way then the extension with the most installs is listed at the top. So this has about 85 million, then here 48 million, and then so on. So those are some of the sort by methods that you have. And here again, just as a side note, instead of clicking here this button, what you also can do is simply here insert the add symbol. So this way then you also have access to all the different filters. Okay, so those were the side notes that I want to mention. And with that, now we have covered all the notes that I wanted to mention with respect to searching extensions. Okay, so then the next point is about managing extensions. And the typical things that you would want to do is to install, uninstall, enable, disable, and update. So to show you how to install an extension, let me here search for Prettier. And then here is a button to install the extension, or if you go to the details page, there's also this button here. And then here you can then also again uninstall the extension, and here just as a side note, if you click this down arrow, here you can also then install a specific version if you want to. So then here is the button then to disable the extension again, and this turns then into a button to enable it. And then the last thing is about updating. So VS Code automatically checks for updates and then installs them accordingly. So if you don't want that behavior, then you can go here to this gear manage button and then here disable auto update. So those are the notes I want to mention with respect to managing extensions. Okay, so now let's go over the side notes. And the first one is about the different views. So these views here, and they simply list the different extensions based on different criteria. So for example, here in this view, you can see all the installed extensions, here all the recommended, and so on. So that are the different views. Then the toolbar is the next side node. Here you have the option to refresh and then just this overflow menu. And within this overflow menu, you have here the option to toggle the different views on or off. So for example, if I toggle off the recommended, then it's not listed here anymore. However, let me toggle it on again. And then some other options that you have here is to disable auto update for all extensions. And if you do that, then you can also here manually check for extensions, for extension updates. And then here also you also have options to enable and disable all extensions. Okay, so that's the toolbar. And then lastly, the last side note is about measures undertaken by the Visual Studio Code Marketplace to protect users against malicious extensions. And this is necessary because the extension host, which is responsible for running extensions, that has the same permissions as VS Code itself, i.e. this could be used to automatically execute malicious code in the background. And we talked about that when we talked about workspaces, and more specifically when we talked about workspace trust. So if you don't know what that is, I will put a link to that video into the video description. Okay, so now let's go back to this node here. And here I simply have a list of mechanisms that the Visual Studio Code Marketplace undertakes to prevent malicious extensions from being published in the first place. So for example, that would be malware scanning, dynamic detection, unusual usage monitoring, and so on. And here I also have some more detailed information if you're interested. And then here I also have a list of mechanisms that the marketplace undertakes to help users make more informed decisions about already published extensions. So those would be then, for example, ratings and reviews, Q&A, and so on. And here again, I also have some side notes. The first one is about reporting suspicious extensions. So if you find an extension that you find suspicious, then what you would do is you would go to the marketplace page of that respective extension, then scroll down here and click this report a concern link. Okay, so that is how you would report suspicious extensions. And then here the last side note is that as of VS Code release 1.97, when you first install an extension from a third-party publisher, VS Code shows a dialog prompting you to confirm that you trust the extension publisher. So for example, if I search for C++ again, and then here if I would want to install this extension, then I get this prompt here to make sure that I actually trust that publisher. Okay, so those were the side notes that I want to mention. And with that, now we've covered all the points that I wanted to cover with respect to the extensions. So in the next video, then we will go over the notes for the editor. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.